Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. My name is Kevin, and 6 years ago, if someone had told me I'd be spilling the details of my life to strangers online, I would have dismissed the idea entirely. Back then, everything felt so simple. I was in love, married to the woman I envisioned growing old with, and my toughest decision most days was what to whip up for dinner. But life has a way of flipping everything upside down. Let me start from the beginning. It all started in college. That's where I met Sophia during our freshman orientation. She was the kind of person you couldn't overlook, tall, confident, and with a smile so brilliant it seemed to brighten the entire room. While most of us were fumbling through our schedules, Sophia carried herself like she'd already conquered the world. As for me, I was the awkward guy trying not to spill coffee on my welcome packet. Our first encounter happened in a campus coffee shop when she bumped into me while reaching for a napkin. Years later, she confessed it wasn't an accident. That one small moment turned into an hour-long conversation about everything from music to life goals and dreams. Sophia had big aspirations. She wanted to become a fashion influencer, showcasing designer brands and traveling the world. Her determination was bold, and her enthusiasm downright contagious. Fast forward a few years, and we were married. Our wedding felt like something out of a movie: twinkling fairy lights, mason jars adorned with handwritten notes, and Sophia radiating beauty in a lace gown. At the time, I truly believed I'd found my happily ever after. But that dream began unraveling faster than I could have ever anticipated. The early years were magical. Sophia threw herself into building her Instagram presence while I worked to establish myself as a software engineer. She spent countless hours planning photo shoots, editing content, and connecting with other influencers. When her account started to gain traction, I couldn't have been prouder. Her first big brand deal felt like a shared victory. But no one tells you about the darker side of chasing social media fame. As her follower count climbed, her ego grew alongside it. Her world began to revolve entirely around her brand. Romantic dinners turned into work sessions. Vacations became nothing more than elaborate photo shoots filled with staged sunsets and expensive cocktails. If I ever suggested enjoying the moment, she'd brush me off without a second thought. I kept telling myself it was just part of the grind, her striving toward her goals. But deep inside, I felt the bond we once shared slipping away. The Sophia I had fallen in love with, the one who giggled at my silly jokes and shared instant noodles with me during late-night study sessions, was fading into someone obsessed with likes and followers. And then came the gym. At first, I thought her focus on fitness was a good thing, but it quickly turned into an obsession. Along with her new routine came a new social circle, a group of young, single friends who loved late nights out. They dubbed themselves the Fit Queens, but to me, they were a recipe for disaster. That's when everything began to fall apart. Sophia started coming home late, reeking of tequila and perfume, giggling at messages on her phone. "Just a girls' night," she'd say dismissively, as if I were being overly dramatic. I wanted to trust her. I desperately wanted to believe we were still a team. But I couldn't ignore the growing chasm between us. Here's the thing about me. I'm not flashy, but I've built a stable life. After college, I landed a steady job as a software engineer. By the time Sophia's influencer career took off, I was earning a comfortable salary, enough to ensure we'd never have to worry about finances. My focus was on building a solid foundation for our future. Sophia, on the other hand, was chasing luxury handbags and extravagant trips. While I found joy in quiet nights with pizza and TV, she seemed intent on turning every success into a bigger spectacle. Her lifestyle grew more indulgent by the day. I'd come home from grueling 12-hour workdays to find her live streaming about skincare or unboxing designer freebies. At first, I was genuinely happy for her achievements, but eventually, it all became overwhelming. One evening, after a particularly exhausting shift spent fixing problems that weren't even mine, I walked into our living room to find it transformed into a chaotic photo studio. Tripods, ring lights, and clothing were strewn everywhere. "Hey, can you help with this lighting?" she asked without looking up from her phone. I swallowed my frustration and replied, "Sure." But what I really wanted to say was, can't we just have a normal evening for once? It hit me then. We were living in completely different worlds. My days were consumed by deadlines and meetings, while hers revolved around hashtags and direct messages. Somewhere along the way, we'd stopped meeting in the middle. Sophia's gym friends only made things worse. What started as simple workouts turned into brunches and late-night parties that stretched into the early hours. The stories she brought home weren't exactly comforting. "You should have seen the bartender last night. Total eye candy," she'd say with a laugh, oblivious to how it sounded. "Sounds fun," I'd reply, forcing a smile. But inside I was screaming, "Who says that to their husband?" The tipping point came late one night. I was lying in bed, scrolling through emails, while Sophia's voice carried through the thin apartment walls. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but when I heard her say, "You're just so easy to talk to," my ears perked up. My stomach churned as I listened more intently. "Yeah, he's fine. Just, kind of boring sometimes. Anyway, what are you doing tomorrow?" she said in a light, playful tone. Boring. That word hit me like a punch to the gut. She was talking about me, the man who worked tirelessly to support her dreams, the one who still tried to make her smile with spontaneous flowers and date nights, even when she seemed indifferent. I sat there, fists clenched, as anger and heartbreak wrestled for control. Part of me wanted to confront her right then and there, but another part, the cautious side, knew I needed evidence. If this was as bad as I feared, I couldn't risk an accusation without proof. That's when I made a choice I never thought I'd make. While Sophia was in the shower, I crept over to her nightstand and picked up her phone. That moment marked the true beginning of the end. My heartbeat quickened as I reached over to snatch her phone from the nightstand. I didn't even know what I was searching for, or if I'd find anything damning. A part of me prayed I wouldn't. But deep down, there was an unshakable whisper urging me on, feeding my suspicion. Unlocking the device was easier than I'd anticipated. Her passcode hadn't changed in years, a testament to her indifference toward technology. As the screen lit up, a wave of guilt washed over me. This was her private world, her sacred space. Yet I rationalized my actions, telling myself it wasn't about violating her privacy, but about uncovering the truth she had so carefully concealed. The cracks in our trust demanded answers, and I was determined to find them. I navigated straight to her messages, my stomach tightening with unease. The first thing that caught my eye was a group chat named Fit Queens Unite. My chest tightened. Scanning the conversations, my worst fears began to take shape. The messages were anything but innocent, brazen jokes, suggestive emojis, and plans that bordered on reckless. Then, one particular message sent earlier that evening by Sophia herself stopped me cold. "Honestly, he's clueless. I'm way too gorgeous to be stuck in this boring routine. I deserve to live a little. If that means indulging in a few harmless adventures, so be it." My hands trembled as I read on, a heavy knot forming in my chest. Kevin's such a snooze sometimes. Sure, he's nice and all, but I didn't sign up to waste my best years playing housewife. I crave excitement, attention. I missed out on my fun phase, and I'm done missing out. The messages were met with laughter and encouragement from her friends, their replies full of affirmations and goading remarks. One chimed in, "Girl, if he's that dull, upgrade, you're a total catch." Anger and heartbreak roared through me like a tidal wave. It wasn't just the betrayal of her actions, it was the sheer callousness with which she dismissed me. Reduced to a footnote in her quest for thrills, I felt my world unraveling as I stared at the screen, numb with disbelief. My hands moved mechanically as I took screenshots, not entirely sure what I would do with them, but knowing I couldn't let this slide. That's when I noticed another name, Ryan. His chat wasn't hidden or buried, almost as if she didn't care to disguise it. Dread coiled in my stomach as I opened it. Flirty texts, inside jokes, plans to meet, and exchanged photos. While not explicit, they painted a damning picture. This wasn't just friendship. It was an affair in full bloom. I felt physically ill. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. After everything I'd sacrificed to support her dreams, after every effort I'd made to build a life together, this was her repayment? To sneak around with someone who clearly didn't grasp the concept of loyalty? The sound of approaching footsteps snapped me out of my spiral. Panic surged. I locked her phone and returned it to the nightstand, grabbing my own phone as a decoy. She entered the room, humming softly, completely oblivious. Sliding into bed, she smiled as if everything were perfectly normal. "Good night," she murmured, switching off her lamp. I couldn't respond. My chest felt like it was caving in, my thoughts spiraling out of control. By morning, the house felt like a stage set for a performance. Sophia's cheerful demeanor grated against the raw wound in my chest. She hummed a pop tune while making her smoothie, her smiles now feeling like daggers. I forced myself through the motions of the day, my mind a whirlwind of anger and confusion. I knew I couldn't hold this in forever, but I also couldn't confront her without a plan. That evening she came home late, her cheeks flushed, and the faint scent of tequila and vanilla perfume clinging to her. Her laughter was too carefree, her mood too light. "Good night with the girls?" I asked, masking my fury. "Oh, definitely," she replied, tossing her bag onto the counter. "We just hit a couple of bars. Nothing crazy." I nodded, swallowing the urge to scream Ryan's name. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. My eyes darted to the screen where a message preview read, "Ryan, miss me yet?" Something inside me snapped. Without thinking, I grabbed her phone, opened the chat, and typed, "Hey Ryan, just so you know I've been benching 250 lately, and your skull might be next." A bitter smirk tugged at the corners of my mouth as I hit send. The satisfaction was fleeting but potent. Then I added, "By the way, sneaking around with someone's wife doesn't make you a man. It makes you a protein shake with legs." Almost immediately, Ryan replied, "Whoa, Sophia." "Nope," I shot back. "Just her boring husband. You know, the guy who pays the bills while you play Romeo at the squat rack." Before I could type more, the bathroom door creaked open. I froze, phone still in hand. "What the hell are you doing?" Sophia's voice cut through the room, sharp and incredulous. Clutching a towel, her face was a mixture of fury and panic. I turned to her, my expression cold. "Oh, look who's here. Care to explain why your gym buddy thinks it's okay to send you messages like that?" Her face turned pale. "Give me my phone, Kevin." "Not a chance," I said, stepping back. "Ryan and I are having a lovely chat. Did you know he thinks your fire emoji hot? Cute, isn't it?" She lunged for the phone, but I held it out of reach. My voice rose, brimming with frustration. "Don't even try. You're not the victim here." "You violated my privacy!" she shot back, her voice shaking with rage. I let out a bitter laugh. "Privacy? That's rich coming from someone sneaking around behind my back. Don't even start with the righteous indignation." Her jaw tightened, anger simmering just beneath the surface, but she hesitated, words caught in her throat. I scrolled to another message and read it aloud mockingly. "Miss me yet?" Her silence was deafening. "You looked incredible in that black dress last night," I said, my voice edged with sarcasm. Her cheeks flushed instantly and she stood rooted to the spot. "Kevin, I can explain," she stuttered, her voice shaky. "Explain what exactly?" I shot back, my tone sharp. "That you've been deceitful? That your looks give you an excuse to treat loyalty like an accessory? Or maybe that I'm just a bank account fueling your influencer dream?" Her eyes welled up with tears, but I felt no sympathy. "You're misunderstanding," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "No, Sophia." I cut her off, my anger burning hot. "I understand perfectly. You're selfish. You care more about the image you post online than the man who's stood by you for 6 years." She remained silent, stunned, as I tossed her phone onto the couch. "Pack your things," I said coldly. "You're leaving tonight." "Kevin, wait," she pleaded, stepping closer. "It was a mistake. I can fix this." "No, Sophia," I said, my words slicing through the air like a blade. "You don't get to change the rules now that you've been exposed. This is done." Without looking back, I walked to the bedroom and pulled her suitcase from the closet. She followed me, begging for another chance, but her words were meaningless to me now. The trust we'd built was already in ruins. After filling the suitcase with her belongings, I ordered an Uber. Handing her the bag at the door, I said flatly, "Go stay with your mom. I'll send the rest of your things later." She stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "I love you, Kevin," she whispered. But I didn't respond. I closed the door firmly, shutting out her sobs and the turmoil she had brought into my life. That first night alone was surreal. The silence in the house was almost oppressive without her presence. Gone were the incessant ring lights and her endless TikTok recordings. For the first time in years, I had true peace. But instead of feeling relief, a heavy emptiness settled over me. Even so, I refused to let it consume me. If there's one thing I pride myself on, it's resilience. Sophia might have shattered my trust, but she wouldn't destroy my self-respect. The next morning, I made 2 important phone calls. The first was to a lawyer. The second was to my best friend, Adam. "You did what?" Adam exclaimed, nearly choking on his coffee as I recounted what had happened. "You kicked her out? Just like that?" "Absolutely," I replied, pacing the room. "What was I supposed to do? Pretend everything was fine while she's out with some gym clown?" Adam let out a low whistle. "Man, I knew she was self-absorbed, but this is a whole new level." "Exactly," I said bitterly. "The worst part? She's not even sorry for what she did. She's only sorry she got caught." Adam shook his head. "If you need help moving her stuff, just let me know. Or if you want me to key Ryan's car, I'm your guy." For the first time in days, I laughed. I'll keep that in mind. The call with the lawyer was far less lighthearted. "Divorcing someone like Sophia won't be as simple as asking her to leave," he cautioned. "She has rights, and if you're not careful, she could claim a significant portion of your assets." "I've got evidence," I said confidently, recalling the screenshots I'd saved. "Texts, group chats, everything." "That's good," he said. "It will help, but we'll need to be tactical. If she's as image-conscious as you say, she might try to spin the situation to her advantage." "Of course she will," I groaned. "She lives for an audience." "Then we'll stay ahead of her," he reassured me. "I'll start drafting the paperwork. In the meantime, don't engage with her, no matter what she says or does." That was easier said than done. Over the next few days, Sophia's messages swung wildly between apologetic pleas and venomous accusations. She left countless voicemails, beginning with tearful appeals for forgiveness. When those went unanswered, her tone turned bitter. "You think you're so perfect, Kevin?" one message sneered. "Guess what? You're not. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere." By the end of the week, her bitterness spilled onto social media. Her Instagram became a stage for vague posts and cryptic captions. Pictures of sunsets were paired with phrases like, "When love feels like a cage, it's time to break free." Her stories were filled with sad songs, wine glasses, and pointed comments about people who don't appreciate strong women. At first, I ignored it. But then, a coworker sent me a screenshot that nearly made me spit out my coffee. It was a photo of Sophia, tears glistening in her eyes, hand dramatically placed on her chest. The caption read, "Betrayed, abandoned, but a queen always rises." The comments were a mix of sympathy and skepticism. While some followers praised her courage, others weren't buying the act. One comment stood out. "Wait, didn't you cheat on him?" That's when I realized I had the advantage. Sophia's carefully maintained facade was starting to crack. A week later, she was served divorce papers. I didn't deliver them myself. Adam took care of it, dropping them off at her mom's house. "She lost it," Adam told me over drinks that night. I could hear her screaming through the door. She was furious. "Good," I said, taking a slow sip of beer. "Now she knows what it's like to lose control." Adam leaned back in his chair. "Don't celebrate too soon. She's not the type to back down easily." He was right. The next day, I received an email from her lawyer, demanding half of everything: my house, my savings, even my car. It was absurd. "Let her make outrageous demands," my lawyer said calmly. "She's not getting them, especially with the evidence we've got." And so, I prepared for the battle ahead. Sophia had already taken enough from me. I wouldn't let her take anything more. The battle had officially commenced. If there was one thing undeniably true about Sophia, it was her complete inability to know when to quit. While I meticulously worked alongside my attorney, constructing the foundation of my case, she was out there doing what she did best, sharing far too much. Every post, Every story, every thinly veiled dig at me was like watching someone juggle flaming torches in a room filled with gasoline. Her tirades on social media were equal parts tragic and, embarrassingly, comedic. She plastered captions like, "Healing from betrayal is the toughest fight, but I'll come out stronger," and "Some people only love you when they can control you. Stay resilient, queens. Know your worth." It was classic Sophia, her perpetual victim complex dialed up to its maximum setting, but then she made a monumental mistake. It all started one evening during a live stream. Scrolling aimlessly through Instagram, I noticed Sophia's name pop up. She was broadcasting live. My curiosity got the better of me, and I tapped to watch. There she was, lounging on her couch, wine glass in hand, her cheeks flushed, and her speech ever so slightly slurred. "You know," she began, flipping her hair like she was auditioning for a soap opera, "people think they understand me. They think they know my story, but they don't." I cringed, feeling like I was witnessing a train wreck in real time. "My ex, or I guess soon-to-be ex, he's just so boring," she continued, swirling her wine dramatically. "Sure, he's a decent provider or whatever, but where's the passion? Where's the excitement? I deserve someone who makes me feel alive." Her audience seemed torn. Some rallied behind her with hearts and fire emojis, while others challenged her version of events. "Didn't he pay all your bills?" someone commented. "Wait, weren't you the one who cheated?" added another. My fleeting pity for her evaporated as she dug herself deeper into a hole. Then came the moment that made my blood run cold. "Honestly," she said with a lazy smirk, "if I'd known he'd react this way, I wouldn't have bothered sneaking around. Like, yeah, I made a mistake, but who hasn't? He just couldn't handle someone like me." That was my breaking point. I shut off the app and immediately contacted my lawyer. The following morning, her live stream became the latest addition to our growing pile of evidence. With screenshots, messages, and now her public confession, we had an ironclad case against Sophia. My attorney assured me her theatrics were only reinforcing our position, but Sophia wasn't finished sabotaging herself. A few days later, I received a frantic text from Adam. "Dude, you've got to see her latest post," it read. I opened Instagram and nearly choked on my coffee. There she was, posing confidently in front of a gym, her caption a masterpiece of self-pity and denial. "Sometimes you don't realize what you had until it's gone, but sometimes what you lost wasn't worth keeping. Starting fresh, leaving toxicity behind and focusing on me." It wasn't her caption that stunned me. It was the backlash in the comments. "Didn't she cheat on her husband?" asked one. "Wasn't this the guy who bought her a car?" Another chimed in. "Toxic? Sis, maybe grab a mirror." Her once adoring followers were turning on her. The carefully constructed image she had cultivated for years was crumbling, and she had no one to blame but herself. By the time we faced each other in court, Sophia was a shadow of her former self. Her previously unshakable confidence had eroded under the weight of public ridicule and financial strain. A few sponsorships had evaporated, thanks to her erratic behavior, and her lawyer's pleas became increasingly frantic. The judge, however, was unsympathetic. With her live stream, the damning screenshots, and her unapologetic attitude laid bare, the court reached a swift decision. Sophia walked away with her car and a modest savings account. I retained full ownership of the house, my savings, and most importantly, a fresh start. As the ruling was announced, Sophia shot me a look I'll never forget, a mix of anger, disbelief, and perhaps a hint of regret. But by then, it no longer mattered. I was done. That evening, Adam and I went out to celebrate. "To new beginnings," he toasted. "To peace and quiet," I replied, clinking glasses. A sense of relief swept over me. Sophia's chaos was finally behind me, and I was ready to rebuild my life on my own terms. Months have passed since the court's decision, and I've never felt lighter. The house, once overrun with Sophia's ring lights, delivery boxes, and endless workout gear, has become a sanctuary of tranquility. At first, the silence felt strange. I had spent so long caught up in Sophia's whirlwind of drama that I had forgotten what it felt like to simply be. But slowly, I began to rediscover myself. From what I've heard, Sophia hasn't been as fortunate. She attempted to double down on her independent queen persona, but her efforts to rebrand as a self-love guru fell flat. Her audience saw through the charade, sponsorships dried up, and her online presence faded. She even reached out to me a couple of times, once with a drunken voicemail alternating between sobbing and yelling about how unfair life was, and later with a rambling email filled with her typical platitudes about mistakes and second chances. I ignored both. There was no point in reopening a chapter that was firmly closed. As for me, I chose to prioritize myself. I started going to the gym regularly, finding solace in the rhythm of lifting weights. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with during my years with Sophia. Most importantly, I rediscovered what made me happy. Travel, for instance, had always been a passion. For years, our trips had revolved around Sophia's social media content, with endless hours spent chasing the perfect photo. My first solo trip, free from schedules and filters, felt like pure freedom. Work has also become a source of pride. Without Sophia's constant demands, I've been able to focus, and last month, I earned a promotion. It feels like validation from the universe that I'm on the right track. Looking back, it's tempting to dwell on what Sophia took from me, my trust, my sense of stability, and years I can never reclaim. But I've learned that holding on to resentment only chains you to the past. Instead, I see it as a lesson. Red flags exist for a reason, and I ignored far too many. Her constant need for validation, her obsession with appearances, her dismissal of my feelings as boring, never again. I've learned to trust, but with caution. Trust isn't something to give freely. It has to be earned. Above all, I've realized the importance of putting myself first. You can't pour from an empty cup. Life moves forward. No matter how unfair or painful the circumstances, there's always a path ahead. You just need to take the first step. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder how things might have turned out if Sophia had been honest. Not about Ryan or her infidelity. That's a different matter. But honest about herself. If she had expressed her unhappiness or told me what she truly needed, perhaps we could have worked through it. Or maybe not. Either way, it would have been better than the chaos she unleashed. In the end, I'm grateful for how it all unfolded. Now, I'm free. Free from the drama, free to live life on my terms, and free to embrace what truly matters. And honestly, life has never been better. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.